couple weeks ago, I sat down to figure out what I was going to say up here, and I felt this familiar anxiety come over me. Anytime I sit down to write something, as someone who writes videos for the internet, I really stress about the first 10 seconds. I think, how am I going to make the first part of this video so good that people are going to stick around? Because on the internet, it's so easy for people to just switch away. They can close the tab. On YouTube, they can just, click another video. So I'm sitting here stressing about this, poring over, man, how am I going to start this? And I realize you people are stuck with me. You can't go anywhere. You can't close the tab. And that brought a lot of solace to me. So that being said, I hope you enjoy what I have to say today, even if you want to leave. As was mentioned, am a video producer at Vox, and I work on a series, an international documentary series called Borders. Borders is me running around the globe flying drones, as you'll see here, and telling stories about how lines on the map affect people's lives. This is a shot from Mexico, where I was doing a piece on the southern Mexico border. I'm going to talk more about Borders in a little bit, but first I want to talk about what Vox is. Vox is, let's start with what it's not. It is not Fox. This is a big problem I have. They're very different things, so Vox is not Fox, okay? It's with a V. Vox is an online news brand that started in 2014 with a very straightforward mission, which is to help people understand what's happening in the news. Another way to say that is we're in the business of explaining the news. To us, the premise of explanation, at least in our business, is based on the fact that there's a lot of information that already exists in the world. We no longer have a shortage of information where we have to send people to places to gather that information. There's already an amazing infrastructure, amazing organizations who are gathering information and publishing it between policy and amazing news outlets that are doing that reporting, big data, scientific research. There's so much of this that sometimes it becomes inaccessible to a mass audience. It becomes so technical and niche that only the insiders can really understand these big ideas. And so when news hits, it's our job to surround that news with all of this stuff. We call it context. It's all the big ideas, the bigger picture concepts that we need to understand this. Then we use the tools of the internet, the formats that we have available with high-speed internet connections, video and interactive video, or interactive graphics, and text on multiple platforms to communicate that context and that news to a mass audience. That is our mission. So when North Korea fires a missile or tests a nuclear bomb, instead of reporting North Korea fired a missile, it went this far, it went over Japan, and Japan said this, and the United States said this, instead of doing that, what we do is we say why North Korea launched a missile in the first place, and why does it matter? What are the big foreign policy concepts that maybe only think tankers, use or talk about, but that we can communicate to a bigger audience? The result isn't a dense report that is meant for a policy audience. The result is something like this. An accessible, shareable piece of content that lives on Apple News and lives on Google AMP and lives on our website and lives in a million different places, and that can be shared and is not intimidating. This isn't just a list of 9 fun facts about North Korea. This is an in-depth, rigorously reported from a subject matter expert, but in a way that people can understand. So that's what Vox is, and I have been there since kind of the beginning. I have seen it grow. We think that this explanation mission is working. People are thirsty to understand the news, and they want to be empowered with these big concepts that they maybe have felt they haven't had access to. So today I want to talk about video specifically, because that's what I work on. And while we work within that mission of explaining the news, we have our own culture that is, to me, a wonderful culture. It's a wonderfully creative culture, and it's one that I want to share the lessons that I've learned being there for 2.5 years. When I first got to Vox, I realized there was something different, and I would talk to other people in the industry, and they would always say, like, well, you guys, your videos seem different. You have this really tiny team. How are you doing it? One New York Times producer actually even asked, literally, and this is what I named this talk today, what is the secret sauce of Vox Video? And I've kind of always thought about that. What is the secret sauce? And so over the years, I've kind of codified this and thought about it. The first ingredient, or the first element to this secret sauce is what Joe Posner, who's the founder of our team, said very clearly, very plainly in this quote. He said, "We hire curious people and we let them make stuff." It seems very simple, but embedded in this quote is actually the ethos of our team. The first couple weeks that I was on the job, Ezra Klein, who started Vox and who's our editor-in-chief, he came to me and said, what do you want to work on? Like, what are you going to make? And as a kind of lowly entry-level producer, I was like, you, the editor-in-chief, are asking me what I want to work on? Aren't you supposed to be assigning me something? And in that moment, I kind of started to realize, like, oh, this is a different dynamic. In my traditional experience working in video production, there's been this bright line, where on one side there is the writer, the articulator, the person who knows the facts, who knows how to report, who knows the subject, and who has more of a journalistic craft experience, an essential part of this industry. On the other side, you have the tech, the person who knows how to press all the buttons on the camera, who knows how to do the keyframes and After Effects and the animations and the graphics, the editing. And then above that, you have usually an editor who is in charge of assigning the ideas and making sure that there is a good, rigorous execution of the journalism. This model makes a lot of sense to me. It's called division of labor. It's a very efficient model. It makes sense. It's how you scale a team. I by no means want to disparage this model, but we at Vox are in the process of experimenting with what it's like when you dismantle these boxes, you get rid of this division, and you let one person have ownership over multiple aspects of this process that seem like they should be multiple people. What happens when you combine that in one brain? This idea leader, this editor at the top, turns into, well, here's a list of kind of the backgrounds of some of my colleagues. People come from all over, different backgrounds, but we give them a title. You're a creator. You own a vision. We want to know what you want to make. And then the ideas leader, instead of being the editor who manages the ideas of the creator and manages their execution, is instead in the business of facilitating and surrounding this creator with resources they need to be better at what they do. Because when people come onto our team, they're not automatically great at everything. They're not automatically unicorns, is the term we call them. They don't have all these skills just prepackaged. They're usually writers who have shown an interest in video, or maybe they're classically trained designers, but don't have a lot of writing skills. And so what the editor does is the editor helps that writer or that designer collaborate and learn the craft that they don't have, or that is their weak spot. And this is different for every single person on our team. I came in without a lot of journalism experience. I was an international relations person who had kind of played around with design and video. But quickly with this model, I began to learn the craft of journalism through rigorous editing, through heavy-handed, no, you have to do this, you have to learn this, and fact-checking and story editing. I quickly learned the craft. Our production editor quickly got me up to snuff with design and with video. And it wasn't we're going to come in and change your work. It's how can we enhance the work that you've done and make it better? And in the process, you're going to learn. This has been difficult. There's a downside to this in the sense that it's really hard to bottle this up and to scale it very quickly. When it was just 4 of us at the beginning, we could kind of just bounce off each other and learn, and it was this kind of happy family. But as we've grown, we're now almost 20 people, and it's proven a challenging task from a managerial standpoint to scale this model. It's much easier to divide into camps and create more of a production line. But we find that empowering a personal vision from the creator and letting that vision rule does things to a creative process that we like to see. And that's really one of the biggest elements, the foundational element to our secret sauce. The second big thing that we talk about is aesthetics, is look, the style that our work takes. This seems obvious, aesthetic matters, but there's kind of a school of thought within news that good design, good cinematography, that's for the advertisers. That's for the people who have a lot of money and a lot of team to spend a bunch of time making ads. And in the news, we're about story. Story is king, therefore we can sacrifice to tell the story. Now, I believe in that. Story is king. But at the end of the day, when you have a good, robust story that's well reported, that's fact-based, and it's presented in a beautiful way, that story can travel much further, and it can be ingested by a bigger audience who gets excited and feels connected to beautiful design. I want to show you an example of some of the work from my colleagues that kind of embodies how news can be presented in a beautiful way.
But to understand ISIS, it helps to tell the story of its rise. And that story begins far away and many years before the group existed. In 1979, the Soviet Union invades Afghanistan to defend a puppet dictator against rebels.
I think everybody would say, oh yeah, there must be a spike for World War I. You know, sure enough, there it is, like 25 million. And there must be a big spike for World War II, and there it is, it's like 65 million. But then you'll see this other spike that is as large as World War II right after World War I. And most people, a lot of people would say, well, what? What was that?
The party has undergone a remarkable transformation from the party of Abraham Lincoln to the party of Donald Trump.
Earth has gone through immense climate changes many, many times before, in some cases leading to mass extinctions. But life persisted. Mammals evolved from reptiles and primates from mammals. They stood up and walked out of Africa, eventually reaching the corners of every continent. But only after well over 100,000 years of wandering did the real human innovation happen, when 12,000 years ago we stopped foraging and started farming.
He's intent on pushing back against the Western world order, and it appears to be working.
Putin, Vladimir Putin, 17.
All right, there's plenty more where that came from. You should go onto the Vox YouTube channel. You can see all of my colleagues' amazing work. And all of this comes from this motley crew of people from a million different backgrounds who've come together to learn these new skills and to buy into the culture that aesthetic matters. It takes a little extra time and planning, but there's a standard now that we really buy into, which is this idea of making things look good. The third and final aspect I'll talk about is this idea that intelligence and curiosity are things that are still alive even on social feeds. There's so much discourse within kind of psychological ramifications of the internet, that the internet's making us dumber and that our attention spans are being lost. Obviously, there's good evidence for that, and I totally believe in a lot of the evidence. But there's another part of this, that the internet has unlocked the information that a lot of people actually have natural curiosity about. And that while it does have some of these negative effects on our attention spans, it also has the effect to blast out good information to lots and lots of people. At first, when Facebook video was this thing and we were trying to crack the code of what is Facebook video, we were really bowing to the algorithm and to the format. Autoplay, no sound, what do we do in the first 3 seconds to like catch people while they're scrolling? And we still continue to hack at that challenge. But in the meantime, we publish our longer videos too. In 2015, I worked on a video with my colleague Max Fisher, who was the editor of the Foreign Pod at the time. We came up with this 6-minute piece about the Syrian civil war. It wasn't a viral video. It wasn't a 90-second, easily digestible video. It was a complex, deep dive into the geopolitical complexity of the Syrian civil war, 6 minutes long. This video is our most viral video of all time at Vox. It has 110 million views, and most of those happened on Facebook. 75 or 80 million of those happened on Facebook. And we've seen this time and time again. This isn't just an aberration. We've seen our longer, our 10, even our 15-minute videos go viral in a mind-blowing way that more than any cat meme you've ever seen. And it makes you wonder, well, what's going on here? And my theory is that there are still curious people on the internet that want to learn. And if you can present it in the right way, something can go viral. It can compete with the memes of the day that also kind of take over these social feeds. So this is these three aspects are a huge part of what I've learned about being at Vox. And the expression that this has taken for me is a project called Borders that I'm working on. I pitched this to my editors at the beginning of the year, and it's not just a happy family at Vox where they greenlight everything and you're the creator, you do whatever you want. They gave me a nice, rigorous, back and forth discussion. How are we going to make this better? How is this actually going to be a viable project? How are you going to execute it? But it's a discussion, and it's a discussion meant to enhance the vision of the creator. And so I've been doing this. It's a 6-part documentary. I've been traveling this summer. I'm going to skip the intro video because we're short on time, but I encourage you to go vox.com/borders to look at the intro video. But this has been a journey. It's taken me up to Svalbard, up in the Arctic, and around to 6 different border places. I've got one more left, actually, going to the Himalayas in a couple weeks. But it's been me going to these places and looking at the human ramifications of drawing lines on a map. And I've learned about border security, I've learned about cross-cultural exchange, and it's been me, kind of this one-man band, with all of these skills that I've learned being at Vox. And these are going to publish in the fall. But at the end of the day, what this is a perfect embodiment, and to me, a really exciting embodiment of this model, of a facilitator looking at a creator's idea, and instead of saying, let me manage this and change this based on my perspective, it's how can I empower you, the creator, with the skills and with the feedback and perspective that you need as someone who lacks certain feedback and certain perspective in order to make your idea better. And that's what we've seen as our very successful model at Vox. It makes it a fun place to work. And this team is something that I feel like we come together and we really have a nice collaborative learning environment. So I would love for anyone to reach out with questions. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about this, and thank you for listening.